Only in the mid-80s, Southeast Asia is actually a location for low-cost labor where a lot of the industries are mainly in the areas of manufacturing, import substitution products. Unfortunately, the so-called environment was actually pretty tough. The VC practitioner like myself at the time, we have to go and sell the idea to them, somebody who would work together with them hand in hand and to overcome some of their growth problems. So that was some 25 years ago when basically the Singapore Venture Capital Association was then formed. A group of us, maybe about half a dozen of us who were local and who were actually, some of them representing foreign institutional investors, decided that we should get around, form an association. The first meeting of the association was held actually in this office of mine. We had a voluntary kind of a secretariat. Basically, we shoestring ourselves along. The fast growth of all the economies in Southeast Asia was only in the early 90s to mid-90s. Unfortunately, in 1997, Asian financial crisis came along. Consequently, after the late 90s, funds started to look for alternate opportunities towards mainland China, which in the early 2000s starts to open up.
We changed our name from the Singapore Venture Capital Association to the Singapore Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Private equity was a significant part of the community. This allowed us to reach out to more of the private equity members, and a lot of them are members today. Venture capital last year in China was about $40 billion, Southeast Asia was $3 billion. Population, we're only a third the size of China, but deployed capital, we're 1/10. So there is a lot of room for growth.
As far as venture capital and private equity investing in Southeast Asia is concerned, we see the positive trend continuing. The younger economies like Vietnam gaining something of a critical mass. More mature economies like Singapore are providing more and more control transactions. In countries like Indonesia, we are seeing tech-related industries gaining tremendous traction.
The SVCA has embarked on the ambition to not just promote the industry in Singapore, but also throughout the region, forming what we are now calling the ASEAN Venture Council. Between the various venture capital, PE associations to be able to engage their membership base and also their regulatory bodies.
Based on MES's survey numbers, the PE-VC industry has grown tremendously over the last 5 years, registering around 30% growth annually to hit more than 150 billion Sing dollars as at end 2016. SVCA started with a few founding members in 1992 and has grown to be a leading industry body representing more than 130 members today. MES is keen to work with SVCA in the following 3 areas. The first is to develop a close industry dialogue mechanism on regulatory issues. SVCA organised industry dialogue sessions and provided feedback on MES's consultations recently relating to the venture capital regime as well as the Singapore variable company structure. Second, MES can work with SVCA to promote the growth and to lift the profile of the industry amongst institutional investors on the one hand, as well as startups and growth companies on the other hand. Third is talent development. As the industry continues to grow, bringing in fresh talent into the industry is of utmost importance.
Thanks to some very well-known advantages of doing business in Singapore, we anticipate that the number of managers establishing a presence here and that the investment activity out of Singapore will continue to grow. The SVCA wants to contribute to the operating conditions of the VC and PE industry, whether it is via MES advocacy or the various trainings that we help organize, or through the outreach to the LP community. You will see our initiatives continue to push in that direction going forward.